Sup peeps, Rockskull here, and I can't believe it y'all, they actually released Lost Colony in December like they said they would. Well, this is after delaying it a whole year, and multiple times in December itself. But hey, this is slightly better than usual. Anyway, since the map has been out for a few months now, and I just completed my PvE run of the map, I wanted to do a review for those who are considering buying Lost Colony. I'll go over aesthetics, performance, gameplay, new features, creatures, and the final boss fight. Starting out, I think it's important to go over aesthetics, since this is one of the first things you experience when you load into an ARK map. Aesthetics wise, I'd say the map is pretty solid in this department. I'm a big fan of the detail put into the city and outskirts of the map, with the crash aberration, the giant Lost King tower shielding everything with red element, and the gorgeous sky behind the clouds. That being said, I don't think it surpasses some of the better looking ARK maps like Aberration in my opinion. It has the scorched earth problem of lacking biome variety. 80% of the map is Arctic mountains, 15% of it is city, and 5% the little rockwell spots and caves. Not saying I dislike how these things look, the scale of the Arctic mountains and the city are pretty cool. It's just I would have liked to see a bit more variety to appreciate. After having solid performance with the Extinction and Ragnarok releases, I was really hoping they learned how to make Lost Colony better optimized. Spoiler alert, they didn't. When I did my recent playthrough, I literally could not go into the city because of how bad the lag was. It really stinks I had to avoid one of the major selling points of the map so I could actually play the game. Luckily, pretty much everything outside of the city was fine. Still not great, but fine. I think besides Aberration's launch, this is easily one of the least optimized maps in the game now, which is so sad, man. I do expect them to make things better over time, but I also suspect it's going to take a lot longer to fix than Aberration. There were also a lot of crashes, of course, but at least I kind of expected that on launch. Bugs galore too, oh my god. Luckily, the ones I ran into the most often were funny visual ones, like the infinite Osidon dab. They added a ton of new gameplay features with this map, so to make sure this video isn't 10 hours long, this section will just be a summary of the early to end game journey on this map so you know what to expect. I'll talk about more specific new features and creatures in the future sections. Starting out, spawning in is pretty rough on this map, as literally everywhere you spawn, things are trying to kill you similar to Scorched Earth. I never realized just how insane Wild Managarmers were too until I played this map. This is like playing against Tracer in Overwatch, but she has infinite blinks. Good luck hitting that thing, bud. Once you get settled a bit, like in the hot spring spots, though, it becomes pretty fun. A neat thing I'm assuming the devs did on purpose is not giving players access to flyers straight away. From what I saw, you kind of have to go to the mountains to get Pteranodons or Argies, which honestly made my early game really interesting. I ended up using a Beezle Bufo and the newly added Solwyn to get around for a bit. Once I got access to flyers and reached mid-game, however, things started going a bit downhill. You see, to get to the final boss, you need Neophyte Horns, Alpha Zombie Brains, and an Alpha Osidon Skull on higher difficulties. These are normal and fine, but then you realize you also need hundreds of these sigils. To get these sigils, you have to do outpost missions, which are some of the most imbalanced BS things I've ever seen in this game. Let's look at the Gamma Defense Outpost as an example. It's best to think of this as the OSDs from Extinction, but with a unique twist. There's 4 rounds of creatures coming to attack you to destroy the outpost, but every round you have the ability to put defenses down like turrets with materials you earn over time. This is a neat little mechanic I had some fun with at first, but then we get to the later rounds. On Gamma, this has a chance to spawn in a Bronto, who might as well have the King Titan theme playing when he spawns in. Your creatures will only be doing 1 damage to the Bronto no matter what, unless you destroy the little nodes on his feet. Doesn't seem too bad, right? Well, on top of that, he does thousands of damage per tail swing. So say goodbye to your creatures, say goodbye to the structure you're defending, and say goodbye to your character because that Bronto will destroy it all. The only way you win this from my experience is if you cheese getting the Bronto stuck with your own creatures, or you happen to be carrying an ascendant gun on you. The attacking outposts you're forced to do in the city have a similar vibe. I'd argue these can be even worse, however, as it constantly puts these missions on stupid bridges. This is really stinky, because dumb ARK AI means these creatures will be consistently falling off. Not to mention the really bad frames you'll likely be getting within the city. When I did my playthrough, I ended up just spawning in the city sigils because it was literally impossible for me to do them with the bad frames and creatures falling off. Overall, a bit of a sad experience for me before reaching the boss here. But in the end, I will at least say these outposts were kind of cool ideas. It's neat to give players an almost PvP-like experience defending and attacking structures, but I think Extinction does this tower defense style of gameplay much better. You had a lot more freedom, as you could actually play structures like Dino Leashes and such, and you had access to extremely strong creatures like Gigas, Karches, and Titans. The difficulty of these was scaled a lot more fairly too in my opinion. On Lost Colony, however, you defend against King Titan Brontos for some slightly better than primitive riot armor, bruh. This section will be one talking about the new features, items, weapons, armor, and structures. To reduce the length a bit, since there is quite a bit of new stuff, I will only quickly go over things that stood out most to me. The Arctic Scout armor set is kind of neat, with it acting as an early game fur armor pretty much, which is helpful for the cold of this map. It has the same insulation as fur, but it has less armor, making it inferior in my opinion. It also has a bonus of regenning stam quicker though, making it better for early game. Next we got the fabricated crossbow. This weapon functions like a normal crossbow where it can use stone arrows, tranks, and grapples. On top of that, it works with spear bolts and metal arrows. It's got 3 different modes too, where it has a fast fire mode, spread with multiple arrows like a shotgun, or use more arrows to do a really charged up shot and marksman. Overall, a neat weapon, but I think my biggest gripe with it is how awful its durability is. For some reason, it has the same durability as a normal crossbow. That means this thing will just burn through durability with how fast it fires. And it also means it's not really amazing for taming since you want to spread out your shots. I wouldn't recommend crafting a primitive one, but if you find a high quality fabricated crossbow, you can have a decent time. Moving to structures, we'll talk about my favorite they added, and one I have some problems with. The medical stand is a fun little thing that has a few uses. First, it can keep wild creatures knocked out for you as long as you supply it with narcotics. This is pretty helpful for those tames that wake up quickly like Gigas, Stylas, or Therazinos. It also has a wake up mode which of course uses stimulants, and a heal mode which uses blood packs. If you have a Desmodus, blood packs are super easy to get, so you can just have a free little healing station to carry around with you if you don't want to put in the work for a Daedon. If you don't have a Desmodus, the medical station does have a blood draw mode to slowly drain a creature's health for blood packs over time. It's really cruel the more I think about it. Next we got the Blood Forge, which I unfortunately have a few problems with we'll get to in a second. Basically, the Blood Forge can craft the newly added red element, turn your weapons and armor into curse gear that is stronger than normal, and finally it can turn Volplite into corrupted Volplite to get a male win. So all these features are fine and neat, but then you realize this thing can only be crafted in the tech replicator, which is obviously plain ridiculous. This is pretty much the extinction problem where the map just expects your character to have learned the tech engrams, which can only be obtained by beating bosses. But obviously not everyone is going to be transferring characters onto this map. I bet a lot of people are coming back to ARK after a long time for this DLC, but then they realize they can't even use some stuff like the Blood Forge and the Cryo Hospital. The funniest thing to me is that the Mailwind saddle is crafted at level 65, yet you can only actually get a Mailwind if you unlock a tech replicator. Just wacky stuff, man. We'll finish this section off with a fairly positive note with the skill tree. A cool little thing to buff yourself over time, and a lot of the skills that can definitely be busted if stacked properly. The only thing I dislike about it is the fact that you can use it on other maps. It's just so stupid pay to win in PvP, just like Fantastic Tames. But honestly, if you're playing official PvP in the game's current state, you are crazy. There's technically 12 new creatures added to Lost Colony, 11 of which are tameable. Desmodus is the first one, and while technically not a new creature since it was added back on Fjordor in ASE, it is its first official addition into ASA, so yeah, screw you. I'm a big fan of these guys, mainly because of how busted they are. You can shoot off the back, they have omnidirectional movement, it can go in caves, it gathers spoiled meat and blood packs easily, and it can dive. Oh yeah, it can turn invisible at night and regen stamina while hanging too. Just an insanely busted flyer that is a more than welcome addition on a map like this in my opinion. Next we got another creature that technically isn't new, but is at least new to the official ASA, Cryolophosaurus. Now personally, I never got around to taming one myself since I didn't have a reason to. But I know if you ever want a torpor creature, this is your guy for it. Next we got the Gloon. These are funny looking amphibious creatures that have a lot of unique features when it comes to their beam. It does damage that builds up over time, it has a hypnotizing mode that stops aggro for 30 seconds, and a necrotic mark mode that sends all wild creatures at the target. The Gloon can also be used as a charge light, make yourself invisible to wild creatures, and works as a parachute. Overall, a very handy little shoulder pet I honestly love the design of. Next we got the Veilwind. These act as a companion creature, which if you don't know, means they will always be next to you, and will never die teleporting away when they get low. Veilwinds are actually insanely helpful on their own, allowing you to get a constant boost of damage, resistance, or speed depending on what you choose. They also can give out a small burst of healing, speed, and damage with commands. I think my personal favorite use is just how busted they are as a fighting companion though. These guys will teleport like crazy when they attack anything, making them impossible to hit. So honestly, bringing a companion Veilwind with you to bigger fights isn't a bad idea. They are also really cute. Another neat little feature with the Veilwind is its ability to evolve like a Pokemon. If you get your hands on pristine Volplite, it will turn into a Soulwind, an admittedly very skinny looking creature where its main use is its mobility. It moves really fast, and can straight up build bridges an infinite amount. A really fun creature to have early game if you get your hands on it, but otherwise loses use over time in PvE. If you get your hands on corrupted Volplite, you can turn your Veilwind into a Mailwind. Now this one, while looking really cool, isn't super amazing in my opinion, since you need a tech replicator to even get one, and its attacks are decent at at best. It pretty much slows creatures, makes them more vulnerable, and makes them receive less healing. Maybe this creature has more use in specific boss fights as a support or in PvP, but personally I think male ones are a bit underwhelming for how hard they are to get. Next we got the Ocedon, pretty much the Rex of this map, and honestly it's really cool. I love its design, it's not just because I like skulls, I swear, and it is more than strong enough to handle the outpost and boss fight of the map, making it actually worthy to tame. Its ball roll thing is just so goofy and fun too, even though it's honestly not useful in most situations. One thing that can die in a hole about it, however, is its goddamn RNG based taming method. Well, honestly, most of the taming methods for the new creatures on this map can die in a hole. Hashtag bring back knockout tames, please. Anyway, cool creature, 9 out of 10. Next we have the most interesting tameable thing of thralls. These are previous survivors controlled under the effects of red element, and they can help gather resources and fight for you. They come equipped with different weapons depending on the type of thrall they are. Again, this is an interesting addition that I've definitely seen some uses for, as you can do stuff like level their melee like crazy to harvest an insane amount of resources, or kill things for you without putting your own character in danger. They can ride creatures too. Next we have what I think is the most visually standout member of the group, the Aureliax. This Chinese dragon looking thing feels really smooth to fly, so honestly I love it. It has a lot of different support abilities with its breath. It's got sonic speed rings, and it can carry 2 Rex-sized creatures at once, which is insane. My only complaint would be the fact that it doesn't land, making it a bit awkward to keep at a location and getting on to ride. Otherwise a really cool design of a creature I wish I tamed a bit sooner in my playthrough. The final tameable creature is one you get as a reward for beating the final boss, so I won't spoil it here other than saying it's pretty cool. Finally, we have the only new non-tameable creature, other than bosses, the Neophyte.
Disgusting.
It's a creature that you won't do damage to unless you use your player weapons, or bleed it with a Thyla, meaning it just takes forever to kill unless you have insane weapons on you. It also constantly picks you off your tame, and it flies around like crazy. God, I hate these guys. I'm not a fan of creatures that force you to use your player to kill them in ARK, as that kind of ruins the charm of the whole game, you know? I won't be blabbering about this further, since this is a topic we unfortunately will be talking about more in the final 2 sections. Before we speak about this boss fight, I do want to say there won't be any cinematic lore spoilers here, but I will be talking about the fight itself, of course. I'm of the opinion that talking about the fight really isn't a spoiler, since you kind of need to know the boss fight before going into it when it comes to ARK, or you're just gonna die immediately. Still, those of you who don't want to be spoiled at all can skip to the conclusion section. You first are going through the castle to fight these minions riding creatures, which are pretty much just the thralls you fight in the city and outposts, but cranked to the max. They seem to have a common habit of just targeting your player, which is really annoying. Especially the stupid ones with flamethrowers that hit you while on your tame. There's also these sections where it forces you on foot to fight these guys in close quarters. But obviously I was like, screw that, this guy's a million health. So I always just led them back to my game of creatures to kill them. Again, as I was talking about with Neophytes, ARK isn't a game that should be based around player combat in my opinion. Luckily, that charm isn't fully gone here, as once you fight the Lost King, it's all about movement and creature combat, which I had a lot of fun with on my Reaper. It's a simple minigame of destroying nodes and him becoming vulnerable, which obviously has the exact same vibe as the Aberration fight, and I appreciated that. Then, once he goes down, you have to fight the Lost Queen, and this section can die in a hole. It pretty much says, screw all the creatures and gear you grinded for, use the tech spear. And you have to fight this OP fricker one-on-one in hand-to-hand combat. I will say, the melee animations with the tech spear are pretty cool, but some of the Lost Queen attacks are ridiculous. She legit has an attack that can one-shot you through high-quality flak on alpha, and I've seen it have aimbot too. I think this is the devs' attempt to import Souls-like combat into ARK like they teased for ARK 2. And while kind of neat, I don't think ASA in particular was built for that sort of combat. Hitboxes are just super wonky. The attacks you do with the tech spear are really plain for this fight. I'm saying this as a fan of this kind of combat, by the way. I recently beat all the side quest bosses in God of War Ragnarok on the hardest difficulty. Everything in that game feels so smooth and purposeful, while giving you so many options. But ARK's combat is linear and clunky. It's just a game not meant for that sort of thing, and I would rather they try to commit to the creature combat more, with a mix of combat while riding, similar to the Rock Drake strat and the Aberration boss fight. To end this off, I wanted to speak about the style this boss fight uses for cinematics, and the map in general. I know I said I wouldn't talk about cinematic lore spoilers, but don't worry, this is just on style, not the lore itself. All I have to say is, at least choose a style and stick to it, man. You keep switching between animated series style and these high quality cinematics, and it's so weird. Honestly, if I were to choose a style, I wish they stuck with the more personal in-game cinematics they did with Extinction and Genesis Part 2. Since it looks so similar to how it does in-game, while keeping your player POV, it never really takes you out of the moment. While Lost Colony can't even pick an animation style to save its life, and both of the styles keep taking me out of the moment personally. That Helena design is in my nightmares. Anyway, Anyway, my summary for the boss fight, very mid to me, but the Lost King fight section was pretty cool. Now, what is the conclusion after all this? Just like the rest of my review videos, it's really up to you to form your own conclusion about this DLC with all that I said. But if you want my opinion, Lost Colony is just a huge mixed bag to me. The creature designs, early game, aesthetics, voice acting and explore notes, and a lot of the new features are really cool. The map just falls off pretty hard mid to late game in my opinion, with it forcing these mechanics down your throat that aren't really ARK. What has always made this game stand out to me is its creature designs, creature taming, creature controlling, and creature combat. They're just super well done, and the new creatures this map adds are proof they definitely still know what they are doing in that department. It's unfortunate the map tries to force clunky hand-to-hand combat, which in the end, players are just cheesing with creatures anyway from what I've seen, because I don't think anybody wants to do it. On top of that, it has really bad performance and bugs galore in its current state. Hardcore ARK players with NASA PCs will probably still have a decent time with this map, but otherwise, I can't recommend it to most people. Personally, I will rate it just above Scorched Earth, but below Genesis 2 in my story map ranking. Some cool ideas, but executed poorly in a lot of ways. I can only hope I will grow to like this map over time if they keep fixing things. You can let me know in the comments what you think of this map. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.
Rocks go, rocks go. All I want to do is stream all night. Lobby full, rocks go. Never gonna play with me, but it's alright.